So I know everyone has experienced this. Everyone seems to have it all together. Luxury bags, weekend trips, and $8 matchas every morning. But behind the scenes, these people are secretly drowning in debt.
22 years old and I have about $100,000 worth of debt.
I have $78,327 in student loans.
But why did nobody tell me how scary debt actually is?
There are so many young adults who are in debt. It's crazy. Like, the amount of us who are in debt is insane.
These student loans, like the calls, are really making me regret ever going to college.
Now, I'd argue that those people definitely have bad money habits, but I also would argue that those people are being peer pressured into keeping up the illusion of having success or being successful, or at the very least having it all together. In a world where success is being measured by aesthetics and what you have in the material world, millions of young adults are trading financial freedom for likes, lifestyle, and status. Now, my question is how do we get here, and just how dangerous is it playing the YOLO credit card debt game that a lot of young folks are playing? Now, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll see how the pressure to look rich is making an entire generation secretly poor. And if you stick around to the end, you'll find out how not to fall into that trap. So without further ado, let's just jump right in.
I need everyone to know this about being in your early 20s. You will meet people that are going to Europe every summer, buying new cars, buying new outfits, going to Coachella. And if you are wondering, how can they afford to be living like this? Like, is something wrong with me that I'm not able to spend like that? Just know they aren't spending like that because they're working harder than you, because they're networking better than you, because they're better connected. They're probably not even generationally wealthy. They are just in massive amounts of credit card debt. How much someone spends and the life that they portray on social media is not necessarily reflective of how much money they are really making. Nothing is wrong with you if you're not able to spend like that. In fact, you are way better off in the long run because you are living within your means instead of going into crazy debt to portray a lifestyle that is far above it.
Now, I really appreciate her for saying the quiet part out loud. A lot of folks in this generation think or are under the impression that folks are doing better than them based off of what people decide to post on social media. They see these luxury getaways, these luxury items, jewelry, chains, whips, all that, right? And then they start to compare themselves between their peers and say, how am I not there yet? When in reality, it's just that your peers are not ahead of you. They were just way more willing to take on debt at a young age than you were. Now, I would say around 90% of the time, it's either that or they have rich parents. And we can see that by these comments here underneath that post saying it's always either credit card debt or rich parents. And then someone else chiming in saying, I worked at a bank, it's rich parents or debt for sure. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for paying for a flight or two on a credit card to go have that once in a lifetime experience, or maybe splurge on yourself every couple of years on a birthday or something like that. But when you end up like this next lady, I'm sorry, I can't give Now, if you didn't see the text on the screen, that lady had $27K in debt before she hit 22 years old. And I'm definitely not trying to assume or judge anyone, but that is absolutely crazy. The fact that you can even accrue that much debt that isn't an auto loan at that age blows my mind. So for example, I have that same Chase Freedom Unlimited card that she has, but my credit line only goes till $9,000. She's sitting at around $10,000 owed as of right now. That just blows my mind how she's getting that much credit at such a young age. But don't get it twisted though. She is just one person in probably hundreds of thousands and millions of other people that are going through the same exact thing. I mean, multiple people online, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit have all shared just how much they are actually in debt. And you won't believe what these folks are blaming their debt on. It's impulse spending. We can see that here where it says women reveals the biggest mistake she's made after years of impulse spending. Now she's 80K in debt. The article goes on to say one TikToker has been documenting her debt journey on the platform, asking for advice and sharing her story. The woman whose username is Morgan Resets is 80K in debt. Her video asking other people how they paid off all their debt went viral, amassing over 4 million views. She's quoted here saying, I have taken to heart the idea of living below your means. In the world of influencer marketing, the temptation is everywhere. There's constant pressure to buy the next cool thing, upgrade your car, or always have the latest and greatest. When you keep overextending yourself, you are setting yourself up for financial stress. And she notes that the constant desire to keep up with trends and the culture of consumerism is exhausting and one of the worst feelings. And I definitely feel her on that. Trying to keep up with consumerism by getting the latest phone every year, hell, upgrading your gaming console every 4 or 5 years at this point. Just going on a date and going to the movies is going to run you a quick little 60, $100. I mean, literally consumerism is everywhere and it's making everyone go broke. So I definitely feel her on that. And then on top of that, TikTok, Instagram are all pushing along these products with TikTok Shop. And what it is when you pick up your phone, you're damn near faced with 1,000 million things that you could be purchasing. And it's just not something that I would consider healthy. But even with all that said, some folks still don't really give a fuck and they're just going to keep swiping that card because guess what? They don't have a ton of responsibilities. If you don't believe me, take a look.
The world economy is in free fall, on the brink of recession. But 20-year-old Amanda Nabulsi couldn't care less.
How much do you spend a week on your credit card?
Oh, 1,500?
And you don't blink at that?
Not at all. Nothing.
It's a lot of money.
It's all right. It's happiness.
Amanda's typical of Generation Y, those aged between 18 and 28. She still lives at home, has no bills to pay. She earns $35,000 a year and happily blows every cent.
Don't look at the price, really. If you love it, you love it. That's it. Get it. Don't have hesitations about it. Don't have second thoughts.
What, whack it on the card?
Yeah, and pay it off later. It's like a take-home lay-by.
Now, I love how the host mentioned that she lives at home and doesn't have a ton of responsibility and makes around 35, 40K a year. And that's the trap that a lot of young folks end up in, is that they think that when they're living at home, it's just time to ball out and kind of find yourself. When in reality, if you are blessed enough to be able to stay in your parents' house past the age of 18, you should be going out of your way trying to stack as much bread as you can in order to get out of your mama's house and hopefully put yourself in a position to where you can have some success going forward. Or at the very least, if you decide to go to college, at least start paying some of that back with some of the money that you saved by having housing taken care of, or a million kajillion other things that you could be doing with your money outside of just shopping every week and spending $1,500 at the mall. And if you've been online, I know you guys have seen this whole Klarna drama that has been going on over the past few weeks, where buy now, pay never has taken a whole new meaning, where some Klarna users are struggling to repay loans as US consumer debt rises. Klarna is a buy now, pay later option where you could split up, let's say, a $200 purchase over 4 months at $50. And this is all happening while households owe a record 18.2 trillion in various forms of debt. Many are trying to cut back while leaning on installment loans for basics. And that number 18.2 trillion is massive. And to put it into perspective, the US national debt is currently at 36.2 trillion. So that means that American households owe damn near half of the US national debt. Now, this behavior can be chalked up to basically one word, and it's being nihilistic. And nihilistic is when you reject all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is essentially meaningless. In other words, it basically is YOLO. And I love how this next person really elaborates on this issue.
$2 and $60,000 of credit card debt. So I'll tell you exactly how that happened, because I also never thought that I would get there. And it really does happen kind of fast. So the number one factor for me was the fact that I had so much anxiety and shame around money that I would actively avoid my finances. Like, I couldn't even look at my bank account, let alone sit down and make a budget. So all this in money advice and how to get yourself out of debt, whatever, was kind of irrelevant to me, because if I couldn't even get myself to the computer to like open my bank account, I couldn't do the rest of it. And because I didn't have a budget and was avoiding my finances, it was really easy for me to not know how much I was spending month to month on like subscriptions and various expenses that you accumulate over time. Plus, this was like the worst mental health period of my life. So my ADHD was rearing its ugly head, and I was impulse spending. I also just had a very nihilistic attitude of like, it doesn't even matter, whatever, I'll just deal with it later. But the thing that you don't realize when you first start getting into credit card debt is how quickly the interest compounds over time. And this is how you can go from having like $8,000 in credit card debt to $27,000 or $60,000 or whatever it is, because all of your cash is now going to two things. It's going to rent, maybe a few different utilities payments that you can't put on a credit card. It's going to your minimums, right? And your minimums on your credit cards are growing every single month, even if you don't put a single new charge on that credit card. But when all of your cash is going to your credit card minimums, or even paying off a little bit more than your minimums to try to like get ahead, you're still having to put a lot of your purchases on credit cards because you're out of cash. So that, combined with the money avoidance, to me was this perfect storm of like, I just didn't know how quickly debt would accumulate once it started. Like, once the ball started rolling, it gets away from you really fast.
Wow, so many things to comment on. The first being really just money ignorance and not knowing where your money's going. That's obviously going to lead to you losing a lot more than you should be. I did a video in the past about subscription fatigue and just how much subscriptions are beating Americans over the head with fees and cost per month. And that's definitely a way to fall deeper into the money trap, because if you're unknowingly losing around $70 a month off subscriptions, you're chalked already. And her talking about credit card interest rates really hits home, because right now the US is currently around 21.5% APR on average. Now, obviously, credit card card debt isn't the only reason why young Americans are getting into a ton of debt. School debt is another huge factor.
Everyone's always like, Brenda, why are you working so hard? Why are you doing a full-time job and posting on TikTok all the dang time? It's because I have $78,327 in student loans. And you want to know how much unpaid interest I accrued in the month of February? $523.93. And this is me paying at least a minimum of $2,000 per month. Started with a little bit over $150-something thousand because I had the bright idea of going to grad school so that I can graduate in a healthcare job to help people, but not get paid enough for the amount of student loans I had to take out. Now, my fault, I went to a private university, but still, it shouldn't be this hard to pay off student loans. But based on my PT salary alone, there is absolutely no way that I could pay this much with just that salary alone and live a breathable, decent life. Make it make sense?
And this is also leading to an influx in the hustle culture. It's coming back again, where folks are getting 2, 3, sometimes 4 jobs to be able to survive and catch up and maybe get ahead in life a little bit while they're young. And that's obviously going to lead to burnout. So all in all, it's just not a good storm. You just hate to kind of see these things playing out how they are. But with that said, let's take a look at the macro lens for why these young people are in so much debt.
Young people are facing a serious debt problem. Between 2022 and 2023, Boomers saw a slight decrease in debt year over year, while Gen X saw a slight uptick. But millennials saw their average debt increase by 8%, and Gen Z more than 15%.
The minimum wage is so low and it's not livable.
Do I feel like my income has kept up with the rising cost of food and cost of living in general? Absolutely not.
Younger people today are making less than older people did at the same age. Adjusting for inflation, 22 to 24-year-olds in 2013 were making almost $52,000 a year. That number today, down to $45,000. And that difference puts Gen Z in a tough spot. In 2013, the debt-to-income ratio for the same age group was 11.76%. Today, it's more than 16%.
Technically, younger generations today are making more than any other generation did. But when you adjust for inflation, which is, relative to the cost of everything else to maintain a lifestyle, it is less.
And that's what a lot of old folks will say. They'll say, well, this generation's making more money than ever. You guys have the best salaries in all of American history. Well, it doesn't do much when inflation is so high. Housing prices are through the roof. Again, it costs $100 to go to the movies if you want to go on a date. If you want to go to a baseball game and take your whole family, let's say you got a family of 4, it's $250, $300, sometimes $500. But what I'm trying to get across here is that these salaries and what we're getting paid hourly, it's not adding up in the grand scheme of things, even if we do technically make more than what our parents and their parents did before. Now, I will say, to add on to this more, is that money dysmorphia, due to the fact that we are constantly comparing ourselves to our peers and other folks around us, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video. And this next creator gives a great message in don't believe everything as you see it online.
There's a recent New York Times article that talks about money dysmorphia, which is when you have a distorted view of your financial situation. You're doing well, but you open Instagram and you see fancy dinners, Coachella, luxury bags, and it creates this false sense of reality where you think you're not doing enough, but other people are living this lavish lifestyle. Don't believe everything you see on social media. I saw another article that 60% of Coachella goers bought their tickets using buy now, pay later services. You never know if someone's buying their new designer item with money they actually have or credit card debt, because you don't know their financial situation. You only know what you're seeing on your social media page without context. Your favorite influencer with the large makeup collection or the fancy villa are probably getting those comp for free. Your friend showing an expensive dinner or a workout class might have their company pay for the food or have a class pass membership given to them. So this is a reminder that not everything you see on social media is real, and you never know the full story.
You never know the full story. And it honestly plays into the oldest adage in the book where thou shalt not pocket watch, right? And you're not supposed to pocket watch for people that are doing really well and have a lot of money and are flexing online. You're not supposed to be one of those guys or girls to pocket watch, right? But I would also argue that you should do the same when it comes to just viewing things online, or not pocket watch folks that you see come across your feed, because honestly, it does no good for you. How or why they're doing or purchasing whatever items or experiences that they are really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And it shouldn't add on to what what you want to do in your life. If you want to take that Japan trip, Greece, or some other once in a lifetime experience, or maybe buy something material like a watch or bag, you should be doing that because you want to do it and you have a passion for that thing, right? Like you have a passion for traveling, you have a passion for bags, or something that you're going to get use out of. Don't get influenced into buying something that you really don't care about. I think that's a very important message to take away from this video and these testimonials, is that if you're going to be spending money, make sure it's on something that you actually enjoy and that you have shown in the past over a long set amount of time to be invested in, instead of just doing things off the whim or YOLO because you only have one life, right? With all that said, if you're still here, I appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe for your boy. It does a lot for the channel. I'm going to see you guys in a few days on the next episode.